Let me do that again. I'll call this house to order. Excuse me. The topic before the house, this house would limit gun magazines to 10. You may begin.
Hi, my name is Lauren, and the topic we will be discussing today is the House limiting gun magazines to 10. And the criteria we'll be going over is the proposing law will be beneficial to public safety in the United States of America, as it only serves a purpose to protect citizens. And resolutional analysis, proposition is to be presented in the affirmative case. Some definitions I like to go over. This House, meaning the United States federal government, and magazines is the supply chamber that is used in or on a gun for cartridges to be fed into the gun chamber. So what is the problem? There have been many national debates on different gun policies that not only the public have been speaking about, but like the House has been speaking about since like the recent mass shootings in the recent years. One of the policies we'll be discussing is whether there should be a magazine capacity on domestic held firearms. So how does a magazine work? A magazine drops out like a press of a button to be replaced by new ones with insertion with a spare loaded magazine. A standard magazine for a 9mm semi-automatic handgun hands like 17 rounds. An assault rifle can carry about 30. And how big is the problem? The gun magazine debates have ignited after people have been questioning public safety after the mass shootings in 2012. Several shooters have access to multiple guns that carry heavy ammunition, allowing them to carry out their plan as efficient as possible, killing as many people as they can. So according to the Christian Science Monitor in 2013, Adam Lanza, that killed 26 students and staff at the Sandy Hook Elementary School in Newtown, Connecticut on December 14, 2012, he used at least 150 bullets with an AR-15 assault rifle, and his gun held a 30-bullet magazine, meaning he had to reload it at least 4 times during the massacre. In addition to the Newtown massacre, also according to the Christian Science Monitor in 2013, the massacre in the movie theater in Colorado on July 20th, 2012, perpetrator James Holmes had a drum magazine that held 100 bullets that allowed him to kill 12 people and injure 70 people in only a matter of 90 seconds, according to the police. So why do we have this problem? Gun control advocates say smaller magazines would increase chances that bystanders, victims, or law enforcement officials can disrupt a mass shooting. And one massacre I will point out that stands out from the other two was the assassination attempt of the U.S. Representative Gabrielle Giffords on July 8, 2011. And Jared Loughner, he was using a 9mm Glock pistol that fired 30 shots and killed 6 people, while also wounding 13 before he had to reload. And once he had to reload, he was able to be subdued, and he was taken into custody. And if his magazine was shortened to 10 bullets instead of 30, it could have saved some lives, because since he had to pause to reload, it really could have made a whole difference. And so what is the solution? Obviously, to pass a federal law that to all states banning high-capacity guns, including all firearms like shotguns, rifles, assault rifles, and pistols. So past experience of us trying to do this, according to Washington Post in 2013, the federal assault weapon ban in the 1990s capped magazines for only a few, but not all guns. And since the bill expired in 2004, studies have shown that the casualty rates of mass shootings have increased after assault weapons ban expired in 2004. And besides, police in Virginia have found far fewer high-capacity magazines at crime scenes in 2004 than they did in 2010. And gun critics point to those statistics to argue that large magazines contribute to greater bloodshed. And so Obama last year, he tried reinstating this act again, providing limitation of all firearm magazines to the public, excluding the police and the military, but it was rejected by Congress. So will this solution work? High-capacity ammunition magazines are legal unless they are banned by the state or local governments. And according to the Connecticut General Assembly in 2013, currently 6 states and the District of Columbia ban or restrict large capacity magazines. For Maryland, however, their definition of high capacity is more than 20. For New Jersey, it's 15, and for like the rest, California, Hawaii, New York, Massachusetts, and District of Columbia, they say it's more than 10 rounds. And 5 of these 6 states apply the ban to all firearms, except Hawaii, they only do it to handguns. And so the states that have passed this law in their legislation, they have not had their law overturned by appeals by the NRA because they declare that it's a violation to the Second Amendment, Second Amendment rights. So what are the advantages? Obviously, safety is number one. In case of another massacre, the banning of high-capacity magazines on all weapons will require a shooter to reload more often, revealing more opportunities to take them down. And also, it sustains the freedom of Second Amendment, which states that a well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Well, by having this ban only reducing the magazine capacity of a gun, we're not really taking them away, so it's not really infringing on this amendment. It's just a safety precaution to handle your weapons. So what are the disadvantages? If you need more than 10 rounds to successfully shoot someone that is coming to your house to protect yourself, then you probably have a bad shot and aim and shouldn't have a gun in the first place. According to the Washington Times in March of 2014, U.S. District Judge Ron White of San Jose, California, said that an average of 3 bullets are used in self-defense for every attack, explaining that there is no reason to extend a gun's magazine. And also another disadvantage, you probably won't be able to survive a zombie apocalypse since you will need a lot of ammunition and multiple bullets to take them down. However, according to the Center of Disease Control in 2012, their release statement is that there's no fear, like The Walking Dead, after an incident that was a man high on bath salts was found to be eating a homeless man's face. When the police caught him, they only needed 1 bullet. So which outweighs? The safety outweighs zombies, and also if you're going to invest in owning a weapon, you should know how to handle it well. At the end of the day, with the limitations of gun magazine, no one's gun will be taken away and the world will be a safer environment, and I will now stand for cross-examination.
Thank you very much. The chair will now recognize the leader of the opposition for a cross-examination not to exceed 3 minutes in length.
Do I
You stand in front of the podium, yes. Stand in front of the podium, yeah. Or you can stand back there, that's good, yeah. You're going to stand back there? I need you to stand closer so I can get you both in the screen. So, Ian, stand a little over that way more, yeah. Okay, good. Okay. Good. We're rolling. And remember, you don't look at your opponent. You're trying to persuade the audience, so you keep your eyesight out on your judges that you're trying to persuade. Okay, begin, please.
All right, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I'm cross-examining right now. Thank you for the brief and all that. First off, I'd just like to ask a question. Why 10 rounds in particular?
You don't really need more than 3 to protect yourself. That's what the U.S. representative said. And if you don't really need more than 10 for really anything, you don't even need it for hunting.
So why not 6 rounds, or why not 3 rounds? Is 10 just a nice arbitrary round number?
Well, I mean, if the average is 3, then that means some people are going to be more than 6. They're going to be around 6, so it kind of just gives them extra space. It gives them more a comfort.
Now, we're saying that 10 rounds, or less than 10 rounds, is proficient. That's enough for a civilian, but it's not enough for police officers and military, correct?
Yes.
Now, that's because having more than 10 rounds, that's more efficient, and it's better for using the firearm, correct?
Yes.
So why do police officers, whose primary job is to protect citizens, why do they get to have more rounds than civilians, whose primary purpose for having these handguns is to protect themselves in a home? Why do police officers get the more effective gun, and yet we do not?
Because usually that police officers that are needing the more ammunition, they're protecting themselves from people that probably have the guns and probably misusing them.
So because they're more likely to encounter someone with a gun, they have more rounds?
They should. It's their job to protect the safety, and if someone is not being safe, then that's what they should do.
So on the random chance that I'm in my home and someone comes into my house with a gun, it's just tough luck?
Well, I hope you know how to shoot well if you have a gun. Otherwise, there's no point in really having one. You're just going to mess around when you have a gun. I really hope you don't.
So basically it is tough luck. Now, criminals, quick question. Criminals are known for breaking the law, correct?
Yeah.
That's what they do.
Yeah.
This is a law dictating that we only carry 10 rounds, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so what is the likelihood of a criminal following this law in particular?
Well, they probably won't, and that's probably why they're called a criminal.
Okay, so the criminal's going to come into my house with possibly a 10 or a 15 or a 17 or a 30 round magazine, but I'm stuck with a 10.
Well, I hope you have a good shot. If that runs out, if the 10 bullets didn't hit him, get something heavy, whack him.
So basically what the government is telling me right now is that I have to be a better shot than the criminal. The criminal has more rounds. He has a criminal intent. But me as a law-abiding citizen, for obeying the law, I am now punished and probably going to get shot and killed in my home.
Well, the average amount of bullets that are needed in self-defense are 3, so if you really need more than 10, then maybe it's survival of the fittest.
Thanks. So basically, untrained civilians, people who don't shoot a lot, are going to be less effective, basically, than the criminal who does shoot a lot.
They shouldn't have a gun. That's my answer.
And then we should just be sitting in our homes waiting to die.
Well,
that's the best bet.
You can find out the break-in rates, and then if they are that high, then you should prepare yourself.
And that's time. Thank you for a very fine cross-examination. The chair will now recognize the leader of the opposition for a speech not to exceed 7 minutes in length.
How do you do, ladies and gentlemen? Once again, I'm Ian Greer, and thank you for being here today, and thank you for listening to me. As you have just heard, we're all going to die. No, but to be perfectly candid about this, it sounds like the government team right now is allowing for criminals to have firearms that we cannot, have larger magazines that we cannot, and it sounds like it's going to be a bit detrimental for us. Well, I'm here to give you a few more reasons that it's detrimental to us. Really quickly, to go over the initial portion, I do agree with all the resolution analysis, definitions, criteria, and the policy. So to move on to my very first point is a simple issue of constitutionality. Now, the Second Amendment, a lot of people talk about, we have the right to bear arms. We have the right to have guns. And a lot of people say that, okay, that's for hunting, or that's for self-defense, or something like that. The real reason, and this has been quoted by Chief Justice Scalia, it's been quoted by Justice Thomas, as well as numerous other scholars and been on television shows around. That's not the intent of the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment is what's considered a doomsday provision. It means that basically if all else fails, if our military fails, if the government fails, what have you, we have the right to bear arms to protect ourselves. We have the right to protect our nation if there's a foreign invader. We have the right to protect ourselves in case of home invasion, which is definitely the more prevalent case. We also have the right to protect ourselves from our own government if it becomes oppressive. Now, the likelihood of this happening in America right now is not that strong. We don't see that this government is going to be killing us or anything like that. We're not going to be invaded by our police forces. However, the right is intrinsic and it's important to keeping us safe in that regard. As long as the population has the ability to protect ourselves from an oppressive government, that's actually a deterrent from a government becoming a dictatorship or some form of oppressive government in terms of that. So basically what a lot of the justices have said is that in this case, the worst case is that the United States is invaded by a foreign body or military, or that our federal government becomes an entity that no longer works for the people of America, but against, and that is that a rebellion is needed. Now again, this is not a case scenario that we like to look at. It's not one that we want to happen. But that being said, this right is a protection against that happening. I'm not saying that's a likelihood. I'm saying that it's a basic right that we are afforded for that specific purpose. It keeps basically our politicians and it keeps our country honest. Now, for my second point, a limit on gun magazines is an ineffective way of preventing harm to individuals. Now, this might make sense that 1 round or 100 rounds, a firearm is still a deadly weapon. We all agree with that. A firearm can kill with 1 bullet. We're hearing from the government team that we should only use 1 bullet, or maybe 3. According to the CDC, there's 11,000 homicides committed during criminal shootings every single year, including in states in which magazine size is already limited to 10 rounds. And even in cities, such as Chicago, where firearms are illegal, period. Handguns are not allowed in Chicago. Yet it's one of the highest rates of firearm violence in the nation. Furthermore, as the following studies show, most criminals find that the number of rounds carried is irrelevant. Now, we were hearing about estimated number of rounds used for home defense is, around 3 or so. But a study done by Christopher S. Koper shows that the national average for number of rounds fired in the course of a criminal shooting is 3.2 to 3.7, meaning that that's all the criminals need too. So even if they did follow this law, you're still kind of in a tough spot. It's not really going to hinder them. Now, it might actually hinder the person who's less experienced shooting. I'm assuming that most average individuals who, might own a gun in their nightstand in their house to protect themselves, have that gun, they shot it once or twice when they first bought it, and then they kind of forget about it. It's in home defense. It's your last resort kind of thing. You don't think about it all the time. It's just there in case you need it. Criminal, on the other hand, is committing criminal activities. He's out there with a gun. He is shooting. He has a fair amount of more experience than the average citizen. So would I rather trust my 3.2 to 3.7 rounds or his? Now this is well below the 13 to 17, which is standard in the handgun, the 30 that's standard in the assault rifle, and even far below the 10 that's mandated by the government proposition. So as we're seeing, even though every single round is legal, this is really showing that the law is kind of irrelevant. It's not really hindering criminals if they use a small amount of shots. We're not actually preventing any crime. Now, here's an interesting point for my next point. Larger magazines can save lives. Now, this might sound crazy. This might sound counterintuitive. You might think, how are more little projectiles that kill people going to save lives? But we actually saw in Jacob Solom of the Reason Foundation and historian Clayton Kramer noted that in the 1992 LA riots, which I think we're all familiar with, there was, and I'm sure that everybody's heard this story about a bunch of people, little shopkeepers and they own little day stores and 7-Eleven and stuff like that. The rioters came at them, and they had fully loaded AR-15, 30-round magazine back when they were legal. Now, what most magazines don't note is that they only killed like 2 people. And actually, I think they shot 2 people. They didn't actually kill, but I could be wrong on that one. Statistics didn't actually say. It's a while ago. But the primary thing is, a lot of people didn't actually invade their businesses. Reason why? They had 30-round magazines. Now, when you have a 30-round magazine, not every single bullet is as precious. You don't have to reload as often, which is kind of nice. Which means that you can actually use the rounds for warning shots. You can fire off into the air. You can fire into the ground. What that means is that you can use bullets for a non-lethal means to actually prevent harm. So they actually encourage, via shots in the air, rioters to not come at their businesses, and actually end up saving lives. If you only had 10 rounds, well, every single shot is sacred, so the person who comes through your door is going to get shot. So, yes, larger magazines actually can save rounds. Or save lives, sorry. Now, my next point is school shootings and mass shootings. Now, my opponent is going to attempt to make a case that even that a majority of mass shootings are not affected by magazine reduction, and mass shootings will be. However, this is not likely the case. First, the majority of shootings, period, do not actually happen near schools. There's an FBI statistic found out by the Washington Post that states that out of the 300 shootings per day that we have in America, school shootings and mass shootings are limited to the headliners you see on television once every few years. So one, limiting that harm anyways is not actually a major occurrence, so it's not a reason to change an entire constitutional right, basically. However, on top of that, this indicates that any legislation is detrimental, and if magazine size reduction did decrease the lethality of firearms, which it's not, the instances in which these apply, these scenarios are basically not very common. But the second link is that the lethality of these mass shootings has nothing to do with the magazine size. It's actually the nature of the firearm. When you see these things, and you actually just heard quoted that the mass number of these were AR-15s or such. These are fully automatic in other states. When we think of AR-15s, we're thinking of California legal AR-15s, which are semi-automatic, 10 rounds. But what you're not hearing is that these things are actually fully automatic. Now, it doesn't actually matter how many magazines I have, because I can, what we call duct taping magazines. You can have it so all you have to do is flip it over and stick it back in if you only want a 10-rounder. Or you can just reload quickly. I did experience myself over the weekend, and actually I found out that I can reload an AR-15 in under 1 second. It's close to 0.75. I can reload a handgun in about 0.5. So you're seeing that these magazine size changes are not really helping us too much. It doesn't really decrease the lethality. And for all these reasons, thank you, and vote for the opposition.
Thank you very much. Chair will now recognize the leader of the government for a cross-examination not to exceed 3 minutes in length.
Can I ask you something? When was the Constitution written?
1778.
And the Bill of Rights?
Around the same time.
Okay. And what kind of weapons did they have back then?
Primarily muskets, no rifling yet. Knives and muskets primarily, cannons.
Okay, so if we're supposed to protect ourselves from the government, what weapons do the government have now?
Significantly more powerful weapons, MP-15s, M16s, all kinds of things like that. I can go on.
Okay, you don't have to. So, if the issue is about whether to protect ourselves from it, like an invading a country or from our own government, wouldn't it be like a different argument to say, oh, if we really are going to protect ourselves from the government, shouldn't grenades be legal? Can't we like be able to buy a tank from a car dealership, or are we allowed to like buy RPGs to defend our government?
Well, it's considered a supplementary force. We have state militias, which are already supposed to fill that role. And that's actually why any individual can join a state militia, and you have access to that kind of equipment. However, everything else, we don't talk about HEs in civilian world. HE is high explosives, grenades, rocket launchers, things like that, flamethrowers even, because they use a napalm element. We don't use things like that in the civilian world. However, you want to be able to keep up with whatever the military has. If we're talking about that doomsday provision stopping a government, you do need fully automatic weaponry. You do need something that basically is as effective as ground units in the military.
Okay. And do you think people should own guns if they only shoot it like once or twice? Do you think it's really safe for them?
Yeah, I see no reason not to, as long as they're taught proper safety rules. And actually in California and a lot of other states, you actually have to pass a certification course to show that you know basic elements of safety with a weapon. Doesn't mean you're going to be a marksmanship shooter, but it does mean that you can operate it safely and proficiently.
1 minute left.
If you say reloading is so fast, if you can do it in 1 second, then under a second, then does it really make a difference if you're limited to 10 rounds, or 10 bullets a round?
Yeah, so why would we pass the legislation if it doesn't matter?
Well, if you can do it, then why does it matter? Safer.
How is it safer, though?
If
does it mean that I have to pull the trigger?
Well, if you personally can reload it that fast, and say some like Adam Lanza can't do it, or the guy that got taken down, he couldn't do it.
It's a little different. I was in the military for 4 years, so I have a little bit more training.
So we should join the military and get guns.
I like that one.
I think we ran out of time.
Okay, you done?
Yeah.
Okay. You have 15 seconds, so you could ask one more question.
I think. What are the points of warning shots? If you have the time to do a warning, you can also reload too.
You can answer the question.
Okay, a warning shot, again, it's going to be people who are less proficient than, I don't mean to brag, but myself. If you're not as comfortable with your firearm, you want to have those basically the ammunition there. It's and also on top of that, not everyone actually just carries a magazine next to them to reload quickly. This was done with the intent of seeing how fast I could reload. But a storekeeper might just have one weapon with one magazine in there. So do you want to have 10 to defend your business, or would you like 30 so you can actually fire off warning shots and not worry about the limit?
Okay, thank you very much. It's now time for rebuttals for our 4 steps of refutation. Chair will now recognize the leader of the government for rebuttal.
Hi,
you may begin.
I'm Lauren. Hi.
Hi, Lauren.
So my rebuttal. There is no harm in reducing gun magazines to 10 bullets a round. They say it is unjust for one person not be able to protect themselves if their own weapon is restricted from firing 100 bullets at a time. I disagree with how much does one protection need until it becomes too excessive and dangerous themselves. I disagree that it also needs more than 10 bullets because there's evidence with studies showing that the average amount of bullets needing to defend themselves is only 3, so do we really need more ammunition? They also say it's unconstitutional to restrict the amount that one gun can contain a magazine. I disagree because people are still allowed to have their guns. It's just a matter of how to regulate them. For example, one of the most accidental deaths in the world are car accidents. Although it's not a constitutional right to own a car, there are laws that are passed to regulate how much safe driving could be if you're abstaining from alcohol in order to prevent accidents. And also, people are given tickets if they go above the speed limit because the law does not believe that people should speed, and nor does it do any good, and it harms public safety. So limiting gun capacity is essentially the same thing to help the public be more safe. If we allowed to have a huge submarine rifle have 100 bullets in them, would it be right to have people driving 100 miles per hour on a highway? We don't take cars away for speeding, just like we're not taking guns away. We're just having a lower capacity, making the world more safe. Therefore, it's not unconstitutional. Otherwise, the bans would have been removed in the 6 states that I had mentioned earlier. They say limiting gun capacity will not help the crisis of a mass shooting. Reloading a weapon is so fast that won't even make a difference. I disagree because James Holmes shot 82 people in 90 seconds with 1 round. And if he had a smaller capacity gun, those few seconds could have made a difference. Like someone could have gotten out real quick and he could have been spared. And maybe it doesn't, and those seconds could have saved someone's life because he shot a 91% accuracy within those 90 seconds. That's pretty darn good, and he should have, okay, never mind. Maybe it does not prevent massacres entirely, but saving someone's life in a matter of seconds does make the difference. Also, for the Jared Loughner case, his downfall led to his own incarceration when he had to reload his weapon. Someone had to subdue him. It worked. He shot 19 people within the 30 shots within that load. If he had the same accuracy with a 10 magazine bullet limit, he would have only shot 5 people instead of 19. Therefore, reducing gun magazines can make a significant change in like any mass shooting. It doesn't have to be near school either. And in summary, I believe that the good outweighs the harm when it comes to limiting gun magazines, since the main principle in owning a gun is to protect themselves, as the Constitution created the amendment for the purpose of it. A magazine size should not be larger than the average person needs it to be in order to protect themselves. It does not offend any constitutional right, therefore it is not illegal for the government to take these provisions to ensure public safety. It would be reckless for the government to allow citizens with heavy ammunition within a weapon without any regulation. As the Washington Post had said earlier, larger magazines contributed to greater bloodshed when the federal assault weapon was placed, and then once it expired, the rates of larger capacity guns appeared at the crime scenes had increased. If the solution really doesn't work, then it really would have already reversed in the states that have passed it, which have done no harm by instilling it.
For all those reasons, therefore, I urge you to do what?
For all those reasons, I urge you to help pass the law that will limit gun magazines.
Vote for the government.
Vote for the government.
Very good. Thank you very much. Chair now recognizes the leader of the opposition for a speech not to exceed 4 minutes against the proposition.
Hi. Thank you for listening to this whole entire thing, and thank you for sitting through it all. I'd like to do a quick rebuttal of a couple points that were just made. Now, one interesting analogy that was just brought up was the car analogy, saying that we don't, we regulate speed, but we don't regulate ammunition. But ammunition is not really akin to speed of a car. It's more like the gas tank. We don't actually regulate and say, oh, you can only have 30 miles, on a gas tank right now. That's all you can do. It doesn't really make sense. It's not actually a proper way to regulate. It won't stop people from speeding, just like it won't stop someone's accuracy. It won't stop somebody from actually going out and shooting. This law does nothing to actually stop people from actually having the incentive to go out and kill people. Now, that's a horrible thing, but again, magazine size is not actually what affects it. And as we've seen, only 3 rounds roughly are used for most criminal activities. A 10-round magazine law is just not effective. Now, another thing is, we're talking about these mass shootings, and one example is brought up in which an individual was subdued during a reload. I actually found this really interesting, and I looked this up online. And the quote from the people who actually subdued him say that while he was reloading, he was actually running along chairs. Someone hit him with a chair. When he went down, he tried to reload, and someone snatched up the magazine that he had dropped. It's not really stopping someone during a reload. That's stopping someone, and then he happens to try and reload, and you stop that also. A reload has never actually been an event where someone has been stopped, because it only takes, even for an untrained person, about 2 to 4 seconds. During gunfire is not constant. It's not a steady stream of bullets. There are pauses in between in which, again, this might sound horrible, but while someone is acquiring a target. Now, you never know when you're listening to this whole entire thing, is someone acquiring a new target, or is someone paused to reload? No one's going to jump up during that. No one has. There are no events that show that. Again, this was one mishap, which turned out very fortunately, and the person went down for it. But there's other events where there was a gentleman in a Walmart who walked into a Walmart with a shotgun and tried to take out people, and individuals with guns, with larger magazines, took him out before he injured anyone. And we can see that these guns are actually saving lives in this regard. And as the government team has already admitted, criminals don't follow laws. So all we're really limiting magazine size for is criminals. For ourselves. We have the smaller magazines. The criminals will still have the larger ones. So how does it solve any problems whatsoever? How is this solvent in any regard? It doesn't help us as a society. It doesn't keep us safer. All it does is mean that we have less means of protecting ourselves in any regard, and criminals just continue to do as they please with larger magazines and shoot us with larger magazines. This policy is not solvent. It doesn't actually help people stay alive. It doesn't actually protect us or increase our safety. And as we can see, those who are charged with our safety, police officers, have already gotten the thing right. They already carry larger magazines, again, 15 to 17, depending on state. And we see if their job is to protect us, why would our guns that are meant to protect us not have the same capacity? Not everyone is a trained marksman. And a lot of these 3-round shots, that's probably by people who actually have trained and know what they're doing. I know a lot of individuals, even in combat when I was in the Marine Corps, fired many, many shots. There's a lot of shots fired, and you miss a lot. There's a lot of adrenaline pumping. There's a lot of movement on the field. When you're shooting in a range versus shooting in a hot environment, there's a pretty big difference. It's going to be very, very different. You're going to miss a lot more. So it's good to have a little bit more in your magazine. No one has ever come out in a gunfight and went, man, I had too many bullets. That was horrible. You always want to make sure you have that to keep yourself safe. And again, if criminals are going to be doing this, we need them also. It's not deterring criminals, it's just keeping us safe. For all these reasons, please, for all the points that we've made, and for all the lack of points on the government team, the way that they have not shown that it's solvent, the way that they've not shown that it's actually going to keep us safer, please vote for the opposition. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Join me in thanking both sides for a fine discussion. It's now time for you to individually look over your notes and think, which policy do you want to vote for? For the government policy to limit magazines to 10? Or the opposition's policy to not limit magazines?
See why I like it.
Don't look at your neighbor's work. This is an individual project. Sign your name at the bottom and hand your ballot over quickly as soon as you've come to a decision. You put in government or op. Affirmative or opposition. Sign at the bottom. You don't have to put in points. What? You're going to do that orally in just a moment, and you'll do it in more detail on the website. But be thinking of a succinct thing you can do. We've got to do this succinctly because we've got 2 debates.
Time for 6 minutes when we start.
Yeah.
Time for 6
Yeah.
minutes.
Okay, once you've made your ballot, could you please pass it over to me, please? Thank you.
So just sign. We don't have to print our name on it or anything.
Print your name. Yeah, print your name on it so I can read. So oh yeah. Everyone signs like a doctor. Thank you. Opposition means negative. Yes. Proposition means government. Yeah. Do I have all the ballots?
It's fun if like they catch me first, so you can just sit.
I was like, I don't understand.
You just find some teams that
That's where I went.
Do I have all the ballots? Everyone turned in a ballot. Okay, thank you.
I hope it's not my speech teacher from there because I like them.
dude, long hair.
Oh, do you, is he look at
Maybe a little bit.
Is his last name? I know who that is. My she's like, you should take Benassi. He left me on debate.
The decision was excuse me. The decision was in favor of the opposition. The final result was 5 for the government and 12 for the opposition. Let's start.
So when we're saying limit gun magazines to 10, does that mean any guns that people like would people have access to guns that have magazines that are greater than 10? So why would, because we're saying like criminals are going to have gun magazines that are like way bigger than ours as civilians, but are they going to be able to have access to them?
Well, they're already out there. I mean,
That was his argument. The criminals
That
will.
they're already out there.
And I apologize. I didn't get to one of my points. I ran out of time. But another one is
What I want to know though is like if we limit them, then it's like anyone that goes to buy a gun now, like there wouldn't even be any with gun magazines greater than 10. Is
And
that
that's-
how it's going to be?
That's right.
One of my last point I didn't get to, but this actually would have nailed that home, is a 10-round magazine is nothing but a modified larger magazine. There's a small pin in there. All you have to do is open up the bottom plate, take out the pin, and it's now a larger magazine.
Okay.
Because they have to fit in the thing.
Okay, let's get to some decisions now. Tell me when we're at 5 because I want to make some closing remarks. In the back, quickly. Stand up, say your name, and say how you voted and why.
Alright, so my name is Jonathan, and I actually voted for the proposition. And the reason I voted for the proposition was during the first cross-examination, I felt that some of the points that were being made up were I guess like lack statistics or lack the real grounding to be strong arguments. I really, unfortunately, didn't like argument about the fact that criminals would actually be more accessible to other guns and would therefore like run up in your house and you would be kind of sitting duck. I think the proposition made a really good point that if you have 10 bullets in your chamber and you're at home, it doesn't matter who comes in your house, 3 should be enough to solve the issue anyways.
Okay.
So even if somebody comes in with a gun with larger magazine or anything like that, your smaller magazine should still be able to take care of the issue.
Okay, thank you. And when you put your decision on the website, also make a positive comment to each side and some suggestions for what they could do better. Or something you didn't buy or didn't like about what they argued. Yes, please.
Hi, I'm Kihan. I vote for
Hi,
the,
Kihan.
I vote for the next one. Yeah, because I think during the first and the second cross examination, he do a better job. Like he made everyone laugh, like funny humor.
Okay, so you used a humorous paradigm.
Yeah.
Okay, good. That's an interesting model of decision making. Who makes me laugh? Okay, good. Yes, please.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tony.
Hi, Tony.
For the opposition, because he did a great job explaining like even there is a ban for the only 10 rounds in the magazine doesn't make much difference according to the situation we have now. So and he's pretty persuasive. So
Okay, it's more persuasive to you. Yes, please.
Hi, my name is Keaton.
Hi, Keaton.
I voted for the opposition as well because I felt that throughout his brief and his cross-examination, he just had a few more facts that seemed more logical to me. Not that you didn't for the government, but just from my perspective, it seemed more, yes, logical.
More compelling, huh? Okay, good. The more specific you can be when you write it up for the person, the better, too. Yes, please.
Hi, I'm Christy. And
Hi, Christy.
I voted for the opposition only because, like, you're obviously very knowledgeable about guns, and now realizing you were in the military kind of adds, well, like, I mean, it adds explanation as to why you know about guns. And so your cross-examination was very strong, and I agree with your point that, like, criminals that already have the guns, like, it's not going to change anything.
So he almost became a witness testifying himself in addition to using arguments from authority from his citations, which he didn't give the dates on, by the way, which I'm going to mention in a minute. Yes, please.
Hi, I'm Thing, and I'm
What's your name?
Thing.
Thing? Hi, Thing.
Hi, I vote for the
Opposition?
because like I agree with you, like prevent that the limit gun magazine cannot stop the criminal because we have illegal criminal too. That means they don't need to go to the store and buy the gun because they can get the gun out of place.
Black market?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yes, please.
Hi everyone, I'm Fad.
Hi, Fat.
Okay. I voted for the opposition. Well, as I'm going to say, but yeah, he mentioned in the Second Amendment that it's a last resort when military failed, and that we need to protect our nations, not just ourselves. And in the refutation number 1 of the government team, she didn't mention that. She didn't mention the point he made, and she didn't prod like all the point he made. She just restated what she said. So I thought it was a weak refutation.
But you want, in your refutation, you want to take it on a step further.
Yeah, a step further that address what he said.
And here's my answer to it, and therefore, here's a new and better point.
Yeah.
Okay, good. That's a good observation. Yes, please.
Hi, Melissa.
Hi, Melissa.
So I was also going to say that I voted for the opposition because I didn't think that the argument, or like the criminals don't follow laws, and so like even if we pass this law, like criminals would still break it. And also, I think you made the argument that in the time when like a criminal would like change the magazine, someone would be able to escape. And so I just kind of doubted how long they would have to really just like run out, and like would you also be in shock if you were in like a school shooting setting to actually like leave the room. So
Can I like actually answer?
Yeah, you can respond. In very briefly, though.
Okay, my name's Lauren. And some of
Hi,
my
Lauren.
and some of my research, I read about the Columbine one. I didn't put it in there, so you don't have to believe me or not. But like, there were people that were shot as they were like escaping. So if they had like 1 second, you could be like out the door. I couldn't like say everything in like 7 minutes. I had like limited time, so I probably would have like maybe elaborated more on that. But it really does like make a difference. And they were all like in a movie theater, and like that many people got shot. They like a bunch of people like escaped through the exit. That's all.
Not to like keep debating, but if they were shot while leaving, that doesn't mean they necessarily would start running away during a relief.
Well, I mean, like they were leaving and then they got shot like at the door.
If you're firing
Okay.
warning shots in there, who knows where those are landing, man?
Okay, it's time for the debate to stop because we got to move on. Let me make a couple of helpful comments for future debates that I want you to all notice. It's important. First off, I very much like the way Lauren did her structuring of the case. She followed the format. She introduced the evidence and the date, so we knew right where the source was and came from. And I faulted and I took points off for Ian for not giving us a single date. So we just had to trust him that his research was recent. And
They're all new.
they're all there. And they're all recent, but he didn't tell us, and so you had to believe him. And as I said in my instructions in bold, make sure your oral advocacy includes the date, and when you say anything you assert, you present orally the way that Lauren did, and that was excellent. Secondly, on the cross-examination, which is a separate score, they both had prepared, just a minute, they both had prepared cross-examination. They used the full time. My only suggestion would be to listen to the answer, and if you have a follow-up, if you can get a penetrating answer and then use it in your next rebuttal, that's even better. Remember he said in cross-examination his answer was this. Well, let me say this about that. That's a good thing. On the refutation, we heard one gentleman criticize your refutation. I appreciate you trying to say the 4 steps. You say, he said, I disagree because. What we didn't get was the therefore very often from you, except at the very end. And the therefore is often do the policy, do the policy, do the policy. It's the impact. And on Ian, yours was more not well organized in your rebuttal. We didn't get specific. It was more stream of consciousness. We didn't get 3 questions asked and answered. We didn't know where to go with this. You covered a lot of stuff. And it obviously was persuasive to you. I think your biggest persuasiveness was just in the persona you presented. I'm a Marine Corps alum. I know this. I went out to the desert this weekend and shot my AK-47 and blah 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 blah. And I knew what I know what I'm talking about, and I think that was very helpful to you. Okay, we have to move on to the next debate. Thank you. Let's give him another round of applause. What do you think? Do you think I can get a full another debate on this battery?
Like that too, if I went to a shooting range.
What is it?
Okay.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, okay. Let's stop this round. Stop it.